Hello and welcome to Analects of Wisdom. This is our series called Sacred Texts Summarized, where we delve into profound spiritual writings from across the ages. Today, we explore the Shobogenzo by Dogen, a cornerstone of Zen Buddhism that continues to inspire seekers with its depth, subtlety, and transformative insights. Dogen's Shobogenzo is a remarkable tapestry of spiritual insight and philosophical depth, composed against the backdrop of 13th century Japan, a period marked by political upheaval, the emergence of new Buddhist sects, and social change. Born into a noble family in Kyoto, Dogen was orphaned at a young age, an event that shaped his early existential questioning. The prevalent religious landscape he inherited was a mixture of established Tendai practices, the esoteric Shingon tradition, the ascendant Pure Land schools, and the militaristic ethos of the Kamakura shogunate. In this environment, Dogen discovered the initial spark of what would become his life's work. An unrelenting inquiry into the nature of birth and death, and a determination to uncover a direct path to awakening that did not rely on elaborate rituals or a later salvation. That hunger for truth led him across the sea to China, where his meeting with the esteemed Tiantong Rujing transformed his understanding of Zen. He returned to Japan carrying not only the seeds of a renewed approach to Buddhist practice, but also a fervent desire to communicate what he had realized. The Shobogenzo, which loosely translates to treasury of the true Dharma eye, grew out of Dogen's discourses, lectures, and essays compiled over many years, first in Kyoto and later in the secluded mountains of Echizen province, where he established Ji. Although these writings are often challenging in their style, they remain profoundly intimate, beckoning the reader to examine everyday life through fresh eyes. Within the text, Dogen seamlessly weaves together references to Indian Buddhist sutras, Chinese Zen koans, and the immediate realities of monastic discipline. He also employs a lyrical use of language that can shift from direct admonitions about the importance of Zazen posture to poetic reflections on nature, moonlight, flowing water, or the sound of rain on rooftops. The wide range of his sources and the subtlety of his writing make the Shobogenzo both timeless and demanding. It does not offer quick solutions, but instead functions as a mirror in which sincere practitioners may encounter their own minds laid bare. Dogen's notion of Genjo Koan is central to the Shobogenzo and sets the tone for how he views the relationship between practice and realization. The phrase points to the idea that every moment of existence is itself a koan, a living question that calls for full attention rather than conceptual analysis. In the more commonly known Rinzai tradition, koans are specific, often puzzling stories or riddles used to spark an abrupt insight. Dogen, however, insists that the koan is right here in the shape of your life and the vivid textures of the world around you. If you have a conversation with a friend, listen to the wind in the trees, or simply sit in silence, each scenario becomes an immediate doorway to awakening. For him, the fundamental error is our insistence on regarding ourselves as isolated observers. Once this idea of a separate subject peering at an external world is dropped, what remains is a direct experience of things coming forth and revealing themselves without obstruction. The moment we stop trying to own or interpret reality, it unfolds as a fully illuminated koan, complete, boundless, and inexhaustibly rich. A signature statement from the Shobogenzo crystallizes this understanding. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by myriad things. At first glance, these lines may feel abstract or paradoxical, yet they trace a path of profound transformation. Beginning with the study of the self, Dogen encourages an honest inward examination of our motivations, our patterns of thinking, our attachments to identity and opinion. In so doing, we begin to see how the notion of a fixed me is an ever-shifting construct. This naturally gives rise to the second step, forgetting the self, not by repressing our personality, but by ceasing to relate to it as something solid and central. In this forgetting, we open to the possibility that everything in the world, every cloud in the sky, every insect on a leaf, every detail of our day, is actively co-creating our experience of being. Instead of life happening to us, life unfolds as us, revealing a continuous interplay between subject and object that dissolves upon closer inspection. At the heart of Dogen's teaching stands Zazen, seated meditation, but he makes a radical claim. Zazen is not a technique to generate enlightenment, but rather the full expression of enlightenment itself. This is most evident in his writings on shikantaza, which can be translated as just sitting. Rather than focusing on a mantra, counting breaths, or dissecting a mental riddle, one simply sits in open awareness, allowing thoughts, feelings, or external sensations to come and go without clinging or aversion. Dogen likens this posture of mind to the sky, which remains spacious and untroubled by clouds passing across its surface. He holds that if we truly trust this attitude of open presence, we don't need to force insight or cultivate special experiences. Wisdom unfolds naturally because it is already inherent in our being. Zazen, in Dogen's view, is the act of letting the mind settle into its original clarity, undistracted by the waves of discursive thought. One of Dogen's innovations was the insistence that practice and enlightenment are indivisible. Many spiritual paths imagine a journey leading to a final destination called enlightenment, but Dogen asserts that each moment of genuine practice is itself an enlightened act. This is because every instant of mindful presence reveals the truth of interdependence and impermanence, the very same truth we seek. While this perspective might appear to diminish the notion of a dramatic breakthrough, Dogen instead amplifies the immediacy and profundity of ordinary experience. He encourages practitioners not to wait for some future attainment, but to realize that the transformative power of awakening is alive in every gesture, be it kneeling, eating, working, or breathing. Everyday life is a recurring theme in the Shobogenzo, particularly illustrated in the section known as Tenzo Kyokan, or Instructions for the Cook. Here, Dogen outlines the responsibilities of the monastic cook, called the Tenzo, but his advice transcends culinary guidelines. He urges the Tenzo to treat each grain of rice as if handling one's own eyes, and to remain fully present at every step, from selecting ingredients to the final washing of utensils. This micrological care is not about obsessive perfectionism. It is an embodiment of the view that the smallest details of daily life shine with the same radiance found in the meditation hall. In a single bowl of rice, one encounters the entire cosmos: sunlight, rain, soil, labor, time, and the intricate web of relationships that sustain life. Dogen's teachings thus inspire a kind of reverence for the ordinary, encouraging us to see that nothing is truly ordinary when beheld with a mind free of self-centered preoccupation. Beyond the immediate and practical, the Shobogenzo delves into profound philosophical territory, most notably in passages that address the nature of time. Dogen's writing on being time is particularly challenging as it upends linear conceptions of temporal flow. He argues that each moment is a complete revelation of being, that the present is not simply a fleeting point sandwiched between past and future, but rather an expression that includes and transcends them. When we cook a meal or wash our hands, the entire universe converges into that activity, and the instant of action extends beyond any narrow notion of chronological sequence. Time, in Dogen's usage, is not something that passes over us, but a dynamic unfolding that we ourselves actively participate in. This teaching urges us to abandon the habit of postponing enlightenment or thinking of practice as something we'll do later. If time is fully realized as now, there is nowhere to hide from the invitation to awaken. To illuminate these insights, Dogen frequently employs the metaphor of the moon reflected in water, a classic Zen image that points to the interpenetration of universal and particular. The moon remains above in the sky, yet appears wholly in any body of water, large or small. In the same way, reality or Buddha nature is vast and unbound, yet reveals itself entirely in each individual circumstance without being diminished. Every reflection is unique. The moon's appearance in a forest pond differs from its appearance in a rushing river, but these variations never fragment the fullness of what is being reflected. Dogen invokes this imagery to remind us that while our personal circumstances may be varied, different callings, temperaments, struggles, each of us, in our own pond of life, reflects the whole of reality. An undercurrent throughout the Shobogenzo is Dogen's sustained attention to life and death. In writing about birth and death, he invites us to contemplate the flow of existence rather than regard death as an unfortunate event at the conclusion of life. For Dogen, the dance of arising and passing away unfolds ceaselessly, moment by moment. Each breath arises, lingers, and dissolves, mirroring the same pattern that will eventually mark the end of our mortal lives. By recognizing the impermanence pervading each moment, we cease resisting change, and as a result, fear and regret begin to loosen their grip. In place of dread, we discover a delicate appreciation for the fleeting nature of every experience. This insight allows us to live with greater tenderness, knowing that each moment is both precious and beyond our control. Though Dogen is often associated with subtle or even cryptic language, his writing is equally anchored in the tangible realities of monastery life. He addresses the importance of the monastic schedule, the precise manner of bowing, the necessity of hygiene, the respectful treatment of scripture, and the communal relationships among practitioners. These detailed discussions illustrate his conviction that the loftiest insights must be grounded in daily conduct. A messy living space or a lazy attitude toward chores implies a mind that is fragmented and inattentive. Conversely, mindfully sweeping a corridor or polishing a bowl demonstrates reverence for the Dharma in action. Thus, the Shobogenzo bridges the gap between high-level philosophical vistas and the gritty domain of physical labor, showing us that wisdom flowers precisely in how we embody care and attentiveness in ordinary tasks. Despite the challenges posed by archaic language, Chinese allusions, and Dogen's idiosyncratic style, the Shobogenzo continues to resonate deeply with modern readers and practitioners worldwide. Translations and commentaries have proliferated, each attempting to untangle the layers of meaning. Monastic and lay communities alike study its sections in groups, pondering the significance of a single phrase for weeks at a time. That slowness of study aligns with Dogen's own approach, which implies that genuine insight is never rushed. Each sentence is a gateway, each image a possible breakthrough, if we are willing to let it work on us beyond an intellectual level. One might ask, how does this ancient text penned in medieval Japan apply to a world consumed by digital technology, frenetic schedules, and global interconnectedness? The answer, suggested by Dogen's central themes, is that the essence of human existence has not changed. We still grapple with birth and death, with identity, with the longing for purpose. We still struggle to balance the demands of daily life with our deep yearning for peace and clarity. We still contend with the illusions of separateness and the grip of fear. In the Shobogenzo, we find a path that insists awakening is never somewhere else, never in a distant land, a future life, or an unachievable ideal. It is as close as our very breath, as present as the sensations in our hands. When we truly open ourselves to the immediacy of life, we discover that the wisdom of the ancients seamlessly joins our modern condition. Readers of Dogen often come away with a paradoxical feeling. On the one hand, he can seem to speak in riddles, pushing the mind into places logic cannot neatly manage. On the other hand, once those riddles are allowed to resonate, a deep simplicity emerges. He is asking us to trust that the mystery of being is accessible right where we are, in every step and every task. That shift in perspective can be both unnerving and liberating, as it implies that the responsibility to wake up is ours alone. No external authority can do it for us. Yet it also implies an intimate support from all phenomena, for when we forget the self, we realize that existence itself is carrying us forward, guiding us into an interconnected field of experience where nothing is truly separate. Perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the Shobogenzo is its refusal to settle for partial measures. It does not say that if we follow certain rituals or adopt certain beliefs, we will be guaranteed comfort. Rather, it challenges us to abandon every layer of pretense until we stand in the raw presence of reality itself. This radical invitation can be as unsettling as it is inspiring because it calls for continuous self-honesty. And yet, that is precisely why so many generations of Zen practitioners have turned to Dogen's words for guidance. In them, we sense a voice that is both affectionate and uncompromising, urging us toward the treasure that lies hidden in plain sight. Studying the Shobogenzo is, in many respects, a lifelong endeavor. Passages that seem obscure at first may later blossom into clarity when illuminated by personal experience, an insight found in the midst of heartbreak, a realization sparked by watching the moon's reflection in a puddle. The text does not merely inform us, it transforms how we perceive and respond to the world if we allow it to permeate our day-to-day awareness. With patience, curiosity, and a willingness to engage in Zazen and mindful conduct, the reader can discover the living pulse of Dogen's teaching beating in the rhythms of ordinary existence. In the end, what Dogen bequeaths to us is a vivid reminder that the totality of the Dharma is endlessly unfolding in every situation. We do not need extraordinary states of consciousness or remote mountain caves to witness the truth of interdependence and impermanence. We only need to look wholeheartedly at what is before us, the bowl in our hands, the person we are speaking to, the subtle stirring of emotion within our own hearts. Moment after moment, the brightness of the moon is reflected in every drop of dew, every current of a running stream. If we can be present enough to see it, that reflection teaches us the nature of reality without the need for metaphysical speculation. It shows us that enlightenment is not a single event, but a continuous unfolding of clarity, compassion, and responsiveness, fueled by the ceaseless interplay of all things. Such is the legacy of the Shobogenzo. It reverberates across centuries, calling us to slow down, pay attention, and enter the dance of being with sincerity. It gently dismantles our assumptions and offers, in their place, a path that marries wisdom and tenderness in the most mundane tasks. Dogen's words do not promise ease or comfort, but they promise authenticity. They serve as a beacon for anyone longing to go beyond superficial identity and experience the deep intimacy that arises when we forget ourselves and allow reality to speak its own language. In that space of openness, we may find that the path we've sought is the very ground on which we stand, quietly illuminating itself and all things without partiality. And as we let the Shobogenzo sink into our hearts, it continues its work, patiently guiding us to encounter each moment as an unfathomable gift, shimmering like moonlight on water, complete even in a single drop.